First of all, I want to tell you this is something so many artists struggle with. I know I have personally put a lot of pressure on myself at different times to nail down that style and that look of my art. And I have to tell you, all of that pressure is going to get in your way. So you have to really go easy on yourself and be kind and let it develop naturally without that pressure. The truth is, I don't think you really need to worry about finding your style. Finding a style is a combination of two activities. So I think finding your style really comes down to showing up at the studio and being consistent and combining that with what you like. I think art for a lot of people comes from a place of joy or seeking joy. And if you're comparing yourself to others or putting pressure on yourself to find a style, that's going to get in the way. It's really important to follow that voice inside you that tells you what you like. And that voice can only be from inside you. You can't listen to other people's voices or compare yourself to things you've seen on the internet. I think it's fun to look at other artists and see what kind of work they're making. It's so much fun to go to galleries and art events and see what's happening. And I learn from a lot of other artists that way. But when you're sitting at your desk working, you have to take all of that and put it to the side. You really just have to listen to yourself and listen to what that voice is telling you that you like. I think this is how I have found my style over the years, just showing up and working, even if I'm feeling hard on myself or bad about my art, even if I'm being a perfectionist, I will still sit down and make something. And that editing process is really important because I learn so much about myself and where my work is going from that editing process. So I think that's how you find your style. I think it's really those two steps. And it's really, really important to keep following that voice. That's going to lead you to your own personal style. I'm an illustrator and an author, but I have only come to this career recently in the past 5 years. I did go to art school. I was a super creative kid, and I did always want to be an illustrator. But when I went to art school, I decided to study painting. And I chose fine art painting because it was really important to me to learn how to draw and paint with physical materials. And at that time, my school had mostly a digital illustration program, and there was some drawing and painting, but it was only in those foundation years. And I really wanted to live in a painting studio. So I followed that little voice that told me that the digital illustration lab wasn't going to be for me and that I had to go to the painting department. And I was sitting with my daughter one day, and I remembered that when I was little, I used to draw paper dolls. I used to draw a doll and then draw all her clothes and accessories. And I thought, I'm going to draw this for my little daughter, and I'm going to play this game with her that I used to play when I was little. And when I did that, it felt like an electric explosion in my head of joy. I just remembered how much I loved being a little kid and making these paper dolls. And then I just started making them and couldn't stop. And my daughter was she was into it, but then like, why do we do this every day, Mommy? I don't want to do this anymore. But she wanted to draw other things, and I just couldn't stop drawing these paper dolls. So I showed them to a friend and she said, I think this is what you should do. You should make these. So I decided I would try to illustrate some paper doll kits and see if I could sell them. And that worked out great. I have been making paper doll kits for 10 years. And that little act of inspiration came to me from following my voice and following this trail of just working and working and editing and sorting it into piles of likes and dislikes and following that little trail. And I'm so glad that I listened to that voice, because I went on to make more illustrations. And then I realized I was doing the thing that I had set out to do, which was to be an illustrator, but I had to get to that point my way. There wasn't a prescribed way to do it. You study illustration, you leave art school, you immediately get a job and start working as an illustrator. But now I've heard so many other people's stories of how they have followed that trail, that little voice, and that's how they came into the art career that they have, and that there isn't really that set path for everyone. And you have to trust that, and trust that your voice will bring you to the style eventually that you will be so happy to work in. But I really caution you about putting pressure on yourself, and I hope that you can follow that voice and just trust that if you take a couple steps every day, you will get there. So now I primarily make all illustrations. I write and illustrate picture books. I still make paper doll kits. I make art prints and design stationery and make wallpaper. And the things that I love about my art style are that it makes me so happy. My art is joyful for me, and I have found so many people that appreciate that joy and can feel it in the work. And I still love to paint from observation. That's something I haven't changed. I've always loved that way of working. And most of my illustrations, I use real live models to make the figure paintings. And I go outside and I have wonderful experiences in nature and bring back plants and flowers and rocks and shells and seaweed to paint in my studio. And all of that is so playful for me that I just can't help myself but have fun. I make all kinds of different objects in my studio because I don't put a pressure on myself to make one thing. I want to make everything. I want to put my art onto anything, and I will try that. And that experimenting and novelty is really satisfying. And I do think I came to that from giving myself the freedom to just follow my voice and not put that pressure on myself to nail down what I'm doing and what I'm making and what my style is. If you liked learning about how I found my illustration style, you should check out some of my projects, which will come up in this video right here.